Okay. Good evening, guys. And welcome to today's class. Okay. So in today's class, I will talk about authentication using bearer token. Now, there are different ways you can actually authenticate, right? If someone is who he or she is trying to prove that he is or she is, right? So we'll talk about authentication, then we'll see how we can use the bearer token to actually authenticate someone, okay? Right, so now these are the things we are going to cover. We'll see what authentication is, how to create, register, and login routes, and then how we can hash passwords, and then also how we can create an authentication middleware. So we'll be able to create routes that if you're not authenticated, you can't use. But if you're authenticated, you can then use those routes. Okay. Now, let's start. Now, what is authentication itself, right? We should start from there. Authentication is the process, right, of proving that you are who you say you are. For example, um, if you're um, if you're using a website, right, and let's say you're using an API, but then it's not only you that is using this API. There are a lot of people also trying to use the same API, right? So how does the API know who you are, right? How does it know that you are maybe you are Enoch and this other person is Imole? How, if two of you are using the same API, how does it distinguish between both of you guys, right? So they something you have to hand to that API to know that you are the one making a request at a particular time, so that it will respond to you appropriately, right? So now, the act of you proving that you are Imole, or you are Victor, or you are Enoch, for example, to a service or to an API is called authentication. So authentication, you'll be asked, what is your username? What is your password, right? Okay, if those are correct, then we know that, okay, this is the person we are dealing with, right? If you make further requests later on, will ask you to provide something, right? Provide what we can use to authenticate that, okay, this is who you actually are. Then we can then use that to reply to you appropriately. Now, let's see how that is done on Express.js. Now, so let me share my VS Code for you guys to see. Okay, this is what we did in our last class. This is where we stopped, right? Now, before we start doing all the fun thing, right? Now, let's try to see how we can move all these, right? All these routes into a routes file or a route folder. Now, writing all your routes inside the root of your project, right? If the project is a small project, that is fine. But if it's a very large project that has different routes or different groups of routes, then it would be nice if you have a route folder instead of putting everything in one place, right? And this is how you do it in Express.js too. So I would come here, I would create a folder. What would be the folder name? I'll just call it routes, right? Sorry, my text is too small, so I'll make it bigger for you guys. I just created a route folder. Inside the route folder, I can create a file. So all this has to do with tasks, right? So I'll just come in here and I'll create a new file called tasks. So I'll just say tasks.js, right? Then inside this tasks is where I would start using the router. Okay. So now what I would say is any route that has to do with tags should come to the tags route. Well, then I will also create a folder or a file for authentication. So I'll just call this auth.js. So anything that has to do with authentication should land here. Anything that has to do with the adding task, removing task should land here. Okay. Then in the task folder, this is what I would write to actually make uh, um, uh, Express to understand that, okay, anything that has to do with the task should be here. Okay. Okay, someone is asking if I can share my code. Okay, when you mean share, Imole, when you mean share, do you mean I should push it online so you guys can clone and start from where I stopped?
Yes, because we didn't get last class.
I can't hear you clearly, sorry.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
I said, we didn't get last time. The class, for the last class, I think it's
Okay, let me see how I can actually do that quickly. So let me go to github.com and try to create a, oh, sorry. github.com. Let me try to see how I can create a new uh, project for you guys to clone and use. Okay, let me see how I can do that. Let me see how I can do that immediately. Uh, okay. So I'll just name this 99. Okay. Okay. So yeah, I'll say git add git commit and I'll just say um adding routes here. Uh, then apart from that, let me create a new repository. I'll just call this code camp 2.0. Okay, make it public and everything. Create the repository. Okay. So I'll drop the link to the repository so that you guys can actually clone it now and follow me on. Then what else? So once I push, you guys would clone, and then you can continue from where you are now. Okay, so check on the chat section. You would see I've dropped the link actually. Can you guys see the link? Then you can use that link to clone, right? Just go to the link. Then if you want to clone directly, let me just copy what you would use to clone. So if you want to clone directly, just copy this command, git clone, then that command there. I hope you guys can see it. You can see the command that I'm referring to. So you can use that to actually clone what I'm doing now, right? Okay, then let's continue. So on this, and here I'll just say express should be equals to require. Then inside here, I'll require express, of course. Then the next thing I'm going to do under here is I'm going to say const route should be equals to express dot router, right? Then the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to export this route here. So I'll say export module dot export is equals to route, right? Then in between here is where I'm going to put all the codes that has to do with like the task. So to create a task, to get all the tasks, to get a task by ID, to patch a task, to delete a task, I'll just copy all of them. Just copy, or just cut all of them, right? And then I'll come to the tax route and then I'll paste them here. I hope you guys are following. Anybody not following? Anybody not following? Right? Now, apart from what I've done so far, right? My code, right? The entry point is not seeing that the entry point is not seeing this task that I've just created here now, right? So what I have to do is I have to declare a route that if you call anything that has to do with that route is going to be linked to this task. So the first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to import that route. Okay, let me also copy this out because I won't need it here anymore. I'll need that. I'll need that here. Okay. Then at this point, I need to import this tax.js. So what I'll do here is I'll say const maybe tasks route equals to require. Then inside here I'll say dot slash routes slash tasks. Don't worry about adding the .js. Just say dot slash routes slash tasks. Then under this your express JSON, right? After all your middlewares, the next thing you're going to come and write here is app.use. Remember that use is a middleware, right? Then here you will say anything that has to do with slash task, right? That you route it to the task route. Now, this has changed everything that has to do with our route now. For example, let me try to run this code. So I'll just come here and say npm start. Wait, let me clear this. Then let me write npm start. Okay, so it's giving an error. It's saying cannot find tax schema somewhere here. No, somewhere at index. It can't find tasks schema. So let's try to debug this at um at schema slash tax.schema. Okay, so what they mean here is this place, this can't be found. So what I just need to do is put one. Okay, then it's saying app is not defined in tasks. Okay, so now this is another, these are some few changes we need to do. Now instead of you having app.get, remember that route is what you're using now, not app.get. You're going to use route.get now. So instead of app.get, you change this app to route. App, just change them to route for all. Then after doing that, yeah, everything should then start working properly. You see, everything is now working properly. Now, the implication of doing this is that if you are going to test your route, right? Remember that we said that anything that has to do with slash tasks, right, should come to this task router. So which means if you're trying to test now, when you come over here, you're not going to just, like for example, if you want to send a GET request, you're not just going to send a GET request to /4000. You'll send that GET request to the port of 4000 / tasks, right? Then if you do that and you click send request, that's when you see your tasks. You see that we only have one task. If you want to add a task, you then change this to a post request. Then what you do next is you now say the content type should be application /JSON, and then you give it a task. I think what's the task title, and then your the task title. So just say another task, and then here you say task body. In the task body, you can say here is another task. Now notice what I'm doing. I'm sending it to /tasks because I said that anything that has to do with /tasks, I'm going to send it to that particular route. So if I do that, you see another task is added. That's the details of that particular new task that I just added, right? And then I could send a GET request again to the tasks. And I'm going to get 2 tasks, which is the first one and the second one that I just added, okay? And then if I want to get a single task, I'll just say tasks / then I'll put that the ID of the task I want to get, right? Okay, what is it saying? It's saying cannot get /tasks /that, okay? So let's see, why can't we get a single task? Let's see, okay. I'm supposed to add by ID. Okay, so I'll say task / by ID / then that. So I can then get a task by its ID. I hope you guys are following. Anybody not following? I hope everybody is following me.
Is what topic are you treating?
Okay, the topic I'm treating is authentication. But what I'm doing first is, but what I'm doing first is I'm trying to rearrange the route that I created. So task is going to, everything that's task is going to be inside task.js. Then anything that's the authentication is going to be .js.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I want to do. Now, we know we've confirmed that this task is working properly, is doing what it's supposed to do. Now let's come and start creating our authentication. Now remember that this is what we did for tasks. So if you want to do the same thing for auth, we'll just come to auth and we'll say const express should be equals to express. Oh, sorry. Require. Then we'll say express, right? Then we'll under here, remember the next thing to do, you can say const routes or router or route, anything you want to name it, or it's normally called router though. You can say router should be equals to express dot router express.router. Then the next thing you have to do is module.export equals to router. Now, remember that what do we want to achieve first? We want to achieve being able to create a user and register a user and then log in that user, right? Now, let's see. What we need to do now is we need to create a new schema. So we'll call that schema user.js, user schema.js. Actually, this what we are doing is we are creating a model, right? And then a model has a model name and a schema. right? Remember what we did at this other place. We said that we are creating a model, but the model will have a model name and a schema to it, right? The model is the collection that we are trying to try and create. So the collection we are trying to create, right, would have a name, and then it would have data in it, right? And then the model is like kind of a blueprint, an architecture of what the whole schema should be about. So the schema should have, oh sorry, the model itself has to do with what we want to name that collection, and the kind of rules we want to set for that collection. So we'll do that same thing to the user collection. So we'll say const mongoose is equals to require, mongoose is equals to require, then we'll require mongoose down here. Then after that, the next thing we have to do is we'll say we'll start creating a schema. So we'll just say const user schema equals to new mongoose.schema. Remember that your schema accepts an object, right? So what we want to create, we'll create a user with a username, with a full name, email, and password, right? So this is how to do it. You say first you say full name should have the type of string, should be required, right? So say require is true. Then, so remember that type of string says make sure that whatever we are trying to save is a string. Then it's required of true means that if you try to send data, if you try to save data to the database that doesn't have a full name, but maybe it might have email and password, that the database is going to like reject that request to save those data. I hope you guys are following. Hello.
Yes, we are following.
Okay, cool. So let's see. Then the next thing we want to create is email. So email is going to be the same thing, but I'm going to add something new to it. Type is string, and then we'll say required is true. Now, another thing, now, apart from required being true, I want the email to be unique. So one person cannot register twice, right? So now if I want to make that possible, what I'll do is I'll now write comma, then I'll come under here and say unique. Unique should be true. So this unique of true is going to prevent two emails, like one email being registered twice or being used twice. Then we'll come here and we'll say password. Password should be still the same, well, not the same as full name. So type of string, and required is true. Okay. Then after that, remember what we'll do next. After creating the schema, right, we'll now create a model. We'll now say, I'll call it user collection. User collection should be equals to mongoose.model, and then the model is going to have a name of users, right? Then it's going to have who please mute.
Hello, sir. You did not include timestamp.
I did know what?
You did not include timestamp.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So I'll say timestamp should be true, so that is going to include the timestamp for us. Then the next thing I'll do is module.exports equals to user collection that way. So we've created our user collection. Then the next thing we are going to do now is we've created that. Okay, we've created the user schema. Then here in the auth, we want to start creating our route. Okay, but then remember that our index.js is not seeing this auth yet. So what do we need to do? I need to come here, the same place I said, okay, that we can actually get tasks. I'll come to that same place and I'll say app.use, right? Then I'll say anything that pertains to auth, right? Anything that pertains to auth that I should get it at this auth.js. But remember that we didn't import auth.js. So we'll come up here, we'll say const auth routes or auth what, even if you are just name it auth, should be equals to require. Then inside here, you'd say routes auth, right? Then down here, you come and say auth route. So now everything is going to go well. Then you can come into your auth route and then start declaring your route. So the first route is going to be a register route. Now, let me talk about something here. Look at what I'm doing. I'm just saying /tax. So if I have two different versions of the tax route, let's take for example, let me ask this question too. Have you noticed that you can have let's use an example. You can have an app, right? But then the app can have different versions, and those different versions, okay, let's take for example WhatsApp, for example, right? Now WhatsApp can have the old version, the new version, and people that are using the old version are using it seamlessly. People that are using the new version are also using it seamlessly. Everything is working well. Now, how is that possible, right? All of them are using the same API. Now, why that is possible is because these APIs are actually versioned. So what you have to do to version your route is you can add something like /v1, right? You can say /v1, right? So that in case you want to create, okay, let's take for example, this is a company. We create this tax first, we launch it, and then later on we want to add more features to the tax, but we don't want to add it directly to the version 1, right? Or we want to modify some features, but we don't want to modify it on the version 1, so that our route or our API can be backward compatible, so that people that are using like a previous version of maybe our app, for example, can still use it, right? But then people that are using the updated version will have access to what is new. We can then decide. So the backend will now say, okay, app.use. Then after app.use, right? Then here he can now say /v2/tasks. And then he starts creating, he can come and then create the routes for that task or so, right? Sometimes your routes can have a folder inside named v1 for version 1, v2 for version 2, and the rest. But let's leave this out. That's how routes can actually be versioned. Okay, I hope you guys are following what I'm trying to explain. Do you guys follow? Or is there anybody that is lost? Anybody lost? All right, so I assume everybody's following, right? If you're just joining, right, you can clone the project, what I'm doing. You can clone what I'm doing at the route that I just dropped on the chat. Okay, then let's continue, right? Now, let's see how we can create users, right? Okay, someone asked when the last class will be uploaded. Okay, the last class we had will be uploaded by weekend. Like I know Friday is weekend, yeah, right? For yeah, it's weekend. But then let's say by tomorrow, by Saturday, or latest by Sunday, right?
So
Yeah.
last class is up. Come on, please.
You say what?
The last class came up. It's online already.
Oh, it's online already.
Yes.
Okay, sorry,
Online.
I didn't check. I didn't check. Sorry about that. So I guess it's online. You guys can actually go and watch it. Okay. So let's continue. So how do we create users, right? So now remember that users are going to need a full name, email, and password. Now we need to import that particular schema or that particular model. So we can say something like this. Const, and I like keeping these brackets empty so that I can actually check it later. So I'll say I want to require dot slash. Okay, so to leave that route folder, I will say dot slash. To leave the route folder, to move a step out of the route folder, then we'll now say we want to enter the schema, and inside schema we want to enter the user.schema. Now while you're inside this bracket, to get this user collection, right, all you just need to do is inside this bracket, press your control and space bar to show you the suggestions, right? Then the next thing we need to do is we need to create that route. So we'll say router dot get, oh sorry, dot post. Remember that post is used to create a new route or a new user. So I could say slash register. So when you're registering, you would say request response. And remember that you mark this as an async. Then what we are going to do here is we would say in that register, right? That we are going to we're going to accept the username, the user's email, and the rest. Okay, let's leave that. So I'll now say await user collection dot create. But now there's something we are missing out here on. Remember that you need to, anytime you're creating a user, right? You always need to hash the user's password, right? So what's the difference between hashing and encryption, right? Hashing is the act of right, is the act of scrambling someone's information in a way that you can't return back to the its normal or it's plain text, right? So if I hash your password, I can't unhash. There's nothing like unhashing a hash, right? A hashed value. So if you hashed something, right, it's going to remain hashed like that. You can only is only your system that can compare if what the user is sending is the same as what you've hashed. For example, if I hash my password, let me see my password is 12345, right? The result of that hash will not be 12345. It will be some random string like that, right? But then what is the advantage of hashing? Security, right? So remember that you're building apps, you're building security, or you're building APIs, you're building secured APIs, right? APIs that people shouldn't be able to just break in easily and do whatever they want to do, right? So even if your database got leaked and someone maybe has every detail of the users on your site, right? The person doesn't have the raw password. The person has the hash password. So how do you hash your password? Now, you need to install a library called bcrypt. So you can say npm install bcrypt. So bcrypt is that library that is mainly used to hash passwords, right? Or hash anything, not just password, anything you want to hash actually, right? So we've installed bcrypt, and then the next thing we'll do here, we'll say const bcrypt should be equals to require, then inside here I'll require bcrypt. Right now, before you before you save a user's detail or create the user's detail, you do something like this: const hashed password, because you want to hash the password now. You say const hash password should be equals to bcrypt. Now, there's what is called sort. Now, before you hash, you need a sort, although I think it's not required. But then sort is just a random, should I say, a random key that's generated by bcrypt to actually hash your password. So I could do something like this: sort should be equals to bcrypt.gen sort sync, right? Did I say get round? Sorry, gen sort sync. So gen sort sync is going to accept a number of rounds, right? Okay, so now what does this gen sort sync, what does it do, right? When we are hashing our password, right, it's tries to hash our password, and then the result of that hash will be hashed again, right? So it's making what this sort does when we hash our password. It makes our password a number of times harder to unhash, right? So if I pass in 10 here, for example, it means after this password is hashed, right? If someone wants to try and unhash it, it will take the person 10 different iterations before the person can then unhash my password and get the original value. Okay. So after creating this sort, right, the next thing we need to do is we'll now say bcrypt.gen sort sync. So gen sort sync is going to use to, sorry, let's say gen sort sync. Bcrypt.hash sync. So now this hash sync is what is going to hash your password actually. So now, what do you pass to the hash sync? You pass the string you want to hash, and then you pass the sort, right? Sort rounds, which is the number of times you want it to actually hash that password. So let's see. Now, where is the password coming in? It's coming in as request.body.password, right? Comma, then what's the sort round, right? So what's the sort round? I'll just pass in sort there. Okay. Then the next thing we'll do here is we'll create that user. So we can now say here that the full name. Now later on we'll refactor this code, because there are some things that I'm doing that I wouldn't do if I'm actually writing a real life like code, right? But then we'll just do it. We'll just write it first. I'll say full name should be equals to request.body.fullname, comma. I'll say email should be equals to request.body.email. And then now we'll say the password should be our hashed password, not the original password that's coming from the user. So we'll say our password should be hashed password. Then after that, we can now tell the users that we can then respond dot send. We can tell the user created successfully. Now, created successfully, right? If you're using response.send, right, your response code is going to actually be 200. But then let's change that. We'll now say response.status, which is the status code. We want to change it from 200 to 201. The response code of 201 means created. 200 means okay. 201 means created. Okay. The same way 404 means not found. Right? So 200 means created. So let's try to do this. Okay. So let's come here. I think after the register, we'll do the login and the rest in our next class, because I promised to just use like 15 minutes or so for this class, right? So by Monday, we'll do the rest. Okay, so what do we do here? We'll come to this point, we would say we want to post, but then we want to post to slash so let's check slash v1 slash auth, then slash register. So that's what we'll do. So slash v1 slash auth slash register, right? Then we would say our content type is application slash JSON. Then the next thing we are going to do is we'll declare our JSON, right? So which is the body. We'll then say full name should be Victor Peter. Yes, of course, me. Email should be hookupjunior@gmail.com, right? Then password should be Victor 1234. Okay, then let's send this request and see what happens. Okay, it crashed. Okay, I wrote application slash JSON. All right, thanks. Goodness. Okay, so let's see. Let me restart. Remember, to restart, just press RS and press enter to restart. Then let's make that request. So making that request, you see, created successfully. Now let me share the database, right? Let me share the DB. So Mongo, that was Atlas, Mongo Atlas. I'll share my browser for you guys to see very soon. Let me just go to MongoDB and then let me try to sign in. Okay, let me share my screen now. Okay, you guys can see my screen, the MongoDB, right? I want to actually go in there and then we see what we got inside there, right? And then we'll call it a day. Okay. Now, let's go over to database. It's still loading, right? Then we'll go to browse collection, and then look, what was the name of our app again? Okay, KodeCamp group. So if we go to KodeCamp group, we'll see tasks and we'll see users. So we have two tasks, but we have one user, right? If I click on user, you would see something interesting. You see my full name, you see my email, but look at what my password looks like. Hello? Can you guys see?
Yes, you can see.
Yeah.
Yes, why is it like that?
Yes, because it is hash. Now, it is only our code base, right? Or it's only the API that can actually compare your password with this hash password, right? Because once you hash something, it's only your system that knows the value of what you've hashed, right? You yourself can't unhash what you've hashed. Like for example, if I want to unhash this, how do I do that? What do I do to unhash it? I don't have any key I could use to unhash what I've done, right? So the password is going to be saved like this, but then in our next class, we'll see how we can actually compare this password with the original password. Remember that the original password is Victor1234, right? So in the next class, we will compare this password to what's the original password and then see how it works, right? And then we'll see how we can actually log in. Okay, so that's how long I can actually take this class. I can't take it more than 7 because there's supposed to be another class by 7, and they will use the same link too. So, do you guys have any question with what I've shown so far?
I don't have a question, but I just want to ask when will it be uploaded? Because I didn't start from the beginning. I missed the earlier part, so I can go through it from the beginning and see what I've missed.
Okay. By the weekend before Monday, it should be uploaded. By weekend, let's say by Saturday or Sunday, it should be uploaded because this video is relatively short, right? So it should
Okay.
be uploaded.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. So any other question? Do you know any other person that has any question? And for grading, you guys should calm down. I'll grade you today. Within today and tomorrow, everybody should be graded. Okay. So I know that you guys are waiting for me to grade you guys. I'll do that. So, but apart from grading, and the video, any other question?
Please, oh, kindly grade me so that I will know my next movement. People.
Okay, you will be graded. You will be graded. Okay. All right. So apart from that, any other question? Is there any question? Any question? No question. All right. So in the absence of any question for this class, we'll call it a day, and then we'll see on Monday, right? On Monday. So by Monday, we should see how we can actually log in. So we've done the register, right? And later on, we're also going to do the advanced registration. The one that when you register, it sends you an OTP, you then put that OTP, and then it verifies your email and the rest and all those stuff. We'll see how to do it. But let's just see this, let's just see how we can actually use the basic registration for now. Then later on, we'll add all those things. We'll add forget password, reset password, and the rest. Very important. Okay, but for now, let's just see how we do this. Okay, so in the absence of any other questions, good night, and we'll see in the next class, which is Monday. Okay. All right. So bye bye. Have a nice day. Enjoy, or have a nice evening.